Hey, Vania, welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. Can you take just a second, please, and introduce yourself to our viewers? Here, a word from our sponsor. Are you looking to take your trucking business to the next level? Join the Safety Dawg Success Network, where trucking professionals connect, learn, and grow together. Get access to exclusive resources, expert advice on safety and compliance, and a supportive community dedicated to your success. You will learn from the Success Network. It has all the tools and the knowledge that you need to thrive in today's competitive market. Simply text the word success to 365-364-0714.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Thanks, Chris, for having me. My name is Vania. I'm with Transport Specialists. We're a consulting company that have been in business for now 7 years. And I have been in trucking, I can say now most of half my life, but I've been in trucking since I was 17. So we're part of a consulting group that really kind of help other carriers establish themselves and also guide them in the right paths and how, their business kind of flows going forward.
Wow. And things like permits and bonds and all that stuff that I know nothing about. When somebody calls me and asks, for me to do that work, I don't know anything about it. And I always say, no, call Vania. So with that, let's get into how we got onto this topic. We got talking about Canada, US, and Mexico trade and the tariffs and we'll call it current events at the moment. How is this affecting trucking and how does it affect your work?
So obviously with everything in trucking and obviously, the domino effect, it affects us as well. I mean, everyone's part of that same umbrella and that same domino. That's the reality of where we are right now, and it affects personal and, obviously business as well. When it comes to the tariffs, obviously we're seeing a lot less freight coming in. You're seeing a lot of carriers complaining about the freight. We're seeing carriers that have been in business for over 20 years, stressing that their direct customers are actually impacted as well. And, a lot of trees are hesitant to basically bring in the freight coming into Canada or even out of Canada as well. So with, obviously the current event of, Canada and Mexico creating this partnership, I think it's going to be opening up a lot of doors for a lot of the inbound freight coming into Canada. So realistically, freight that, can bypass those tariffs, right? So that's going to be a big one that's coming through.
Well, and you mentioned bonds, and this is an area that I've already admitted my ignorance of. What the heck is a bond?
So bonds are used in different methods. So you have Canadian bonds, which are used, in case, let's say, a load comes to the border and it can't cross. Maybe it can't cross because the customs on it hasn't been paid. It has to go to a sufferance house. There are instances where it gets put in long-term storage. Sometimes even going to Alaska is a good example of using a Canadian bond because a US-based carrier, or Canadian carrier taking freight, has to bypass, well, actually not a Canadian carrier, but a US-based carrier specifically going interstate would have to bypass Canada. So they use an in-transit Canadian bond. So those are methods of Canadian bonds. When it comes to the US bond, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So US bonds are actually really cool to use in the sense where it's freight that's coming in from overseas. So overseas freight or freight that does not belong to, let's say, America. It becomes almost like your America becomes a bridge. Like that bond is used as a bridge to bypass the United States. And how it works is really the freight that comes, let's say, it's destined for Canada and it's coming in through Mexico. It goes to an FTZ site, which is a foreign trade zone, uses a short-term, so long-term Mexico carrier takes it to the border, and then a small-term, short-term carrier takes it from the Mexican border to the FTZ site, and then the ultimate, delivering carrier picks up the freight at that point. So US bond is used basically to bypass the tariffs because there's really no tariffs involved when The freight doesn't really belong to the U.S. And basically, they pick it up and they get to the border, they cancel the bond, and they deliver it to Canada.
Okay, so let's go back to what is a bond, the basic thing. Is it a type of insurance policy?
No, a bond is, oh, you got me stumped on that one. It's not necessarily an insurance policy. It's a certification. I mean, it is a certificate that carriers do qualify, or they have to qualify to get. There are obviously impacts. It's getting harder to get. But basically what it is, it's no different than, a certificate or a license that they have, realistically. Everyone can really get it. It's just you have to qualify and, and go through the right channels to get it.
Okay, so if I'm a Canadian carrier and I'm picking up freight at the Texas-Mexico border, am I going to need a bond to bring that freight back to Canada?
Yes and no. So a lot of the times, it is a yes and no question. So sometimes the broker, so even if you're not a carrier, sometimes the broker already has the bond themselves, and then they're able to initiate the carrier to go pick up the freight, and then they do the cancellation of the bond itself. Sometimes the customer has the bond, but the majority of the time they're looking for a carrier that has the bond. And realistically, what we tell our carriers, if they're going to the southern border, specifically Texas, and they're looking to pick up a lot of the freight going down there, we always tell them to, think about getting the bond, because usually they're going to get at least 2 requests that they see on the load board. And it's 2 requests that they're probably going to deny already or turn it down, right? So it's freight that they're turning down.
So can a carrier, and again, this is coming from a place of ignorance. If I was a carrier, can I buy a bond for like kind of a blanket bond for a year or an extended period, or is it per load?
No. So the bond it's a yearly bond, and you can have it on your roster for a year, and you can cancel anytime, realistically. There are carriers who can also share their bond. I would never recommend that because it is attached to your SCAT code. And obviously with anything, if you don't clear it off correctly, then you can have claims with CBP. So realistically, the bond, when it comes into effect, it is a 1-year bond that starts with, and then you just renew it every year.
All right. And what the heck is what did you call it? A SCAT code?
SCAT code is, it's a 4-digit letter code that you need for a border crossing going into the States.
See, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't cross.
When I bring out these acronyms, you're like, what the heck is that?
Well, exactly. And I look at it and think, well, if I don't know it, there's got to be at least one other person watching that may not know it. So acronyms are the death of us all. But, it just causes so much confusion. And sure, I know you sent me the questions that I was going to ask you, but I can't read it without my glasses. How can U.S. bond help carriers?
So again, going down into obviously Texas or freight that's coming in overseas, if it's destined for Canada and it's going into a port, it will need a U.S. bond. It needs to travel through a T&E bond, which is a type 62. There's different types of bonds, but particularly the majority of what carriers are going to do for road carriers, it's going to be a type 62.
Okay. And so what different types of bonds and why do they have all these different types? Like, what the hell? A bond should be a bond. Keep it easy.
Yes and no. I mean, it's kind of like, when you look at your house, right? I mean, there's different types of houses, right? There's semi-detached, there's detached, there's bungalows, there's, second-story houses. There's different types of houses, no different than there are different types of bonds. So it really does, it's case specific on what you need it. So for your typical carrier that is cross-border, he will use a type 2, which is a really an open, road carrier bond, right? For a U.S. bond. For carriers that are maybe having, a bonded warehouse, they'll use a different type. For carriers that have to go to the airport, they'll use a different type. It's still a US bond. It's just classified a little differently. So, when you have the US bond, you can add different types to it. It doesn't have to necessarily just be one. It is one piece of paper, but it's just where it's checkmarked that, kind of initiates what you can and cannot do. So those are questions that we kind of ask usually on, where the carrier is going and how are they traveling? Are they going, by rail? Or are they picking up a lot of freight at the airport? All of those classifications will change.
See? And again, I'm shocked that there's so much work into all this stuff. And when is a bond, I'm not sure what the right word is, again, because I struggle in this area. If the bond, it's a financial security device, I suspect. So when would it pay out? Under what circumstances would the carrier have screwed up that the bond would pay money?
Okay, so a couple things. The first initial, setup of the bond, you require financial stability. So that's something that when we apply, they say yes or no, depending on what your financial stability is. When it comes to the penalties, so specifically when CBP imposes penalties, it's really for due diligence. And if the carrier has not done their due diligence in terms of maybe, when the bond is open, so realistically the bond gets opened and says, hey, you know what, we're now traveling under the bond today, and we're going to hit the border maybe 4 days. So they have maybe about 30 days to clear off that bond. But you have time-specific needs on when to close and open bonds. So as an example, if the carrier hits the border, let's say Detroit, Michigan is coming into Canada, and let's say he crossed today. He's got 2 days from today's dates to really close off that bond, or CBP usually kind of starts nagging and saying, hey, go back in, close off your bond, or we're going to have problems, right? So they're pretty lenient when it comes to, helping out. We've had instances where carriers have not known. So, just.
Go ahead.
So to give you a little bit of history, way back when I used to do the trucking part, the carriers physically had a bond in their hands, and they had the 7512, which is the bond when it gets initiated. And the driver basically had it with the stack of their paperwork. They would get to the border and they would hand it to the CBP officer first. They would basically imprint it. So they'd write those little cutouts in it. And then, the driver would proceed to the Canadian side to clear the load. When it comes to now, CBP's now changed that process. It's all electronically. Obviously, we all know that a lot of things are now electronically. So when it becomes electronic, people tend to forget that there's an additional piece to it, because it's kind of like, okay, well, driver's cleared through. He doesn't need to do anything. But in the backlog, there's still stuff that needs to be done. So realistically, you have to go through the portal. You have to, close out the bond, and then you're good to go. I mean, it's a simple process, but like I said, if you don't know, then, situations happen, right?
Yeah, you screw up. So, what? See, and that's why I don't talk to my clients about bonds and stuff like that, because it's just an area that I could cost them a lot of money in. And I have no thought of ever learning this area either. That I refer.
Yeah, I think the penalty starts. They used to start at 5,000. We're seeing penalties at 25,000, and we've seen liquidations at 50,000 now.
Okay, so what's the difference between a penalty and a liquidation?
So the penalty starts first, where it's like, okay, you have X amount of days. You usually have about 60 days to pay that penalty, or at least, petition to say why it should be brought down, or if it can be brought down, or, basically, plead your case, right? You have 60 days to kind of plead it. After those 60 days, you usually get an email back basically saying, hey, we've looked it over. Here's a decision. It's, usually they reduce it to about 500. We've been really, really good at reducing them. And if it gets to the point where you haven't, answered in 60 days, then you get another letter. That letter is what we call liquidation. So does it mean that liquidation can't still be pleaded? It can. And I think that's the great thing about CBP is that they acknowledge that, even though it's gone to the point of no return, they're still okay with you pleading the case. And they're usually really good at even bringing it down. Now, they might not bring it down to the 500, but, they're still willing to negotiate, which is phenomenal. And I think it really goes to show how much, they still kind of, care, I guess you can say.
Oh, that's good. And are these things that, like if a carrier found themselves, what's the correct term, in default?
Yes.
Could they hire you to help them dealing with
Absolutely.
the agent? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll gather the documents. We, investigate what happened. We put all the information together and we submit it. And then we wait for the decision. When it comes down to the penalty of the pay, we can do that as well. We do have the ability to pay it online. So usually it depends on if the carrier wants to send out a check. I never advise to send out a check, especially now with Canada Post being on strike. You definitely don't want to send out a check and having it sit there for God knows how long. But realistically, paying it online, you have a confirmation, you have the proof, and it's already submitted.
Well, paying it online, it's been paid. That's the other part of it. Right now, if you send it by check, it's going to be months likely before it clears. And therefore, I don't know what they're going to do with you in the meantime, because as far as they're concerned, you haven't paid the penalty.
Right. And I mean, realistically, if they are mailing it, we always ask for a picture of, the letter with the stamp, but the reality is, you want to send it by courier, right? Like 100%. It takes a lot more time to process, electronic is always, especially now, it's the way to go. It's quicker. They get it in their bank the next day and everyone's happy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't want to go down that road. Therefore, I send them all to you. What else does transport? Oh God, I'm old. Hit a mind. What's the name of your company again?
Transport specialists.
Transport. See, I mean, and it's only right here in front of me on the, so, hey, what else does transport specialists do?
Oh, my sales pitch is always, we can do everything but drive your truck. And realistically, it's because my dad taught me to sixth gear in reverse. And then my trucking career ended when he said he would buy me a hot pink truck. So that's where my CDL kind of entered and where it kind of, stayed and stalemated. But realistically, I mean, there's something that we normally can't do. And realistically, if it's something that's new, so we have a new request as an example to help with a different area. And we're like, oh, well, we don't really know how to do that, but I'm pretty sure we can figure out. And usually what we do is we tell the client that straight up. We're like, look, we don't quite know how to do it. We know what it is, but we haven't done it before. But if you're willing to kind of wait a little bit and we can decipher it for you, I'm pretty sure we can do it. So if we get to a point where it's like, if we can't do it, then we send it out to other specialists as well, either accountants or, bookkeepers or banking or whatever, the client really needs to kind of guide them going forward. But realistically, I mean, anything to do with permits, anything to do with bonds, CTPAT is a big one, the anti-terrorism program, obviously with the Canadian side as well. Harm is another one that we've, dabbled into. And that's, for the registration. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty good at tackling quite a bit.
You were only talking about bonds, but I know that if you are a brand new carrier, for example, you can help them with CVOR, setting that up. You can help them with getting their DOT or MC, setting them up correctly with the right bonds, the heavy vehicle use tax, all that.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So why is that a big one?
Well, that one's not regulated for Canadian drivers. So that one in the States, in order to get your IRP, you need to have the 2290. So it's very easily regulated.
You set up IRP? Oh. So you do IRP.
Yeah, and IFTA as well. So, I mean, when it comes down to all your permits, oversize permits, there's not a list that we don't really tackle.
Oversize, overweight you're doing as well?
Mhm. Yes.
So anything permit related, basically.
Right. We leave the safety up to you.
Well, thank you for that. Don't step on my toes.
We dabble into like some of the driver files and stuff like that. But I mean, when it comes to like, the bigger knowledge, obviously, Chris, I'm not going to take that away from you. I don't want to get into that. That's up to you.
No, and I appreciate that, Vania. But I think with that, did we cover everything about U.S. bonds and Canadian carriers going down to Texas and what they need?
For the most part, we did. I think that it comes down to the type of freight that they're hauling and stuff like that. But I mean, the reality is, if they're going to Texas, having the U.S. bond is really key.
Right. And for carriers who need more information, Vania's contact info is in the show notes down below, so you can reach out to Vania directly. Vania, thanks so much. I really didn't know, and I still only know a tiny little fraction of anything to do with bonds. But thanks for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Well, there you have it, folks. A huge thank you to Vania from Transport Specialists for breaking down the complex world of bonds and cross-border freight for us today. If you found the episode helpful, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. It really helps other trucking professionals find the show. Remember, all of Vania's contact info and links for additional resources are in the show notes down below. And don't forget to check out the Safety Dawg Success Network for expert advice on safety, compliance, and the growing your trucking business. Until next time, stay safe out there.